I was listening to how I tell stories in some of these first episodes, and you can hear the restraint in my voice. You can hear me trying not to swear.
Right.
I think I'm just going to have to let her rip and just swear.
Let the expletives fly.
I want this podcast to be like, these two friends came up to me at a party and they're like, we have a story for you,
Yeah. I'd be like, tell someone else.
Sorry, carry on. You've never met anyone at a party who's told you a good story?
No.
Ever?
Don't think so. I'm too busy like throwing shapes on the...
Throwing shapes in the house of dance?
Yeah.
Welcome to Save Me From My Shelf, a literature podcast where we take classic tomes off their pedestal to make you less anxious about reading them. Our jokes come from a place of love and for a specific teaching purpose. However, if you think that making fun of great literature, and maybe some mild swearing, is offensive, this might not be the podcast for you. Hey everyone, welcome to the 4th episode of Save Me From My Shelf. I am Abby.
Hello, I'm Daniel.
What is our text today then, Daniel?
Picture the scene. Medieval Cheshire. The plague is abounding across the land. The sky is all grey. People look pasty. And they have funny haircuts. It's the Middle Ages. We're doing Gawain and the Green Knight.
We are, yeah. We sort of shoehorn this in a little bit because, and I'm so annoyed about this, there was that big film release that was coming out right around the time this episode is due to be released. And so we worked this in, and they cancelled it in the UK. So at some point, I mean, American markets, please feel free to still enjoy this, but at some point you and I are going to have to see this movie and talk about it in a much later episode. I was really annoyed. I was really hoping that we could work in a little film review at the end of this, but have you read Sir Gawain?
Not only have I read Sir Gawain before.
I can't wait to hear where you're going with this.
But I've also read Pearl, the other poem by the Pearl poet, or the Gawain poet, depending on how you want to name the anonymous author of both of those poems.
But you must be insufferable at cocktail parties. I think you'll find that that's all I have for you. The thing is, doing this podcast has given me a bit of a complex because I love doing accents, but I'm very bad at them. I did not realize how bad I was at doing yours.
Yeah.
I listen to these when I edit, and I'm like, wow, I sound exactly like Daniel if Daniel had a head injury.
Yeah. It's good though, Pearl. Pearl, it's quite different. It's about mourning and has a lot of sort of...
not interested.
Metaphysical niceties, whereas this is...
If this doesn't have scenes of hunting and very strange psychosexual games, I'm not interested.
Yeah, this is a bit more of a romp, isn't it?
Yeah, that's one way of putting it. So, I guess I'll go through the normal stuff. We're about to spoil this for you. I have no idea if this is going to spoil the film or not, because I somehow suspect that they've added a slightly different plot to the film. I've watched the trailer, and it seems like there's a lot of stuff in the poem that's missing in the film.
Describe the extra bits of the trailer for me, please.
It seems like it's a lot more action-packed.
Oh, God.
I know.
Jeez. Iron Man comes and collaborates with Gawain, and
yes,
he's all kind of wisecracking and...
Well, I don't know what the film is going to be like, so maybe this isn't going to spoil the film for you. Maybe it is. Y'all are just going to have to deal with it. I don't think there are any trigger warnings in this particularly. There's some grisly bits... They're grisly scenes of hunting, but I'm not going to particularly dwell on them. There's a lot of sex in this, and I am going to go to town on it.
Okay.
I also am probably going to swear quite a bit more in this episode, but don't worry, I will bleep it all out, and then
that's a relief.
Also, I'll bleep out just everything else in this podcast.
Yeah,
Okay, so do we want to do any background? We'll be pretty brief about this.
The poet's anonymous, isn't it? No one knows who he or she was, but they probably came from around the North Midlands.
Yeah, they were, I wrote here, a Midlandser. That's not a word.
No.
A Midlander.
Yeah, that's very offensive to my people.
I'm sorry, I'm deliberately pronouncing it wrong
that's
to annoy you.
Yeah, well, we Midlanders are quite easygoing.
Well, I think it's cool, though, because they were able to sort of tell, because nobody knows who the author is, they were able to do some linguistic analysis on the author and determined they were probably from that area, which is cool.
Yeah. So, when they're contemporary of Chaucer, and the kind of Chaucerian dialect is more comparable to kind of what English became. Whereas I think this, because we're reading this in translation, aren't we, with the Simon Armitage's translation, I think this dialect is a bit more unintelligible to modern readers.
Yeah, and well, that's one thing that I wanted to talk about too, is what is Old English? So I almost brought this up when we talked about Othello, because a lot of times people are like, Shakespeare, I can't handle Old English. I hate that. Shakespeare is not Old English. Old English it stopped existing in the 1150.
Once William the Conqueror.
Yeah. It's a totally different language. So you would not be able to understand a word of Old English. This text here is just coming out of Middle English, which again is a totally separate language. So the translator says here, oh, you might get the odd word, you might get the odd sentence that just about makes sense. A lot of this you still need a proper translator to deal with. Yeah, this is ultimately, it's a poem, so it's meant to be read aloud. We're not really going to be able to do justice to all the poetic forms and things, but my god, if this doesn't have the most bonkers plot you have ever heard in your life. All right, sit back, folks, because we are going to tell you a story, and I gotta be honest, this is the best fucking story I've ever heard in my life. I love this so much. I love it so much. So the narrator opens saying, guys, Britain's a really weird place, but we have this king who's named Arthur. He's led us through some pretty fucked up times. Here's just one of his many stories. And can I just pause immediately and say, King Arthur doesn't do shit in this poem. He's barely in it. So to be like, Arthur has led us through, this is part of his, the extended Arthurian universe. It feels a little rich, but okay.
It is a spin-off though, isn't it? I think that is the sort of point, isn't it? You got the matter of Britain, that's where all the kind of fun Arthur stuff happens, and then this is just kind of like, this is like Frasier to Cheers, isn't it? I like all the kind of stuff about Britain being founded by a Trojan here. This is I read this in Geoffrey of Monmouth's History of the Kings of Britain, because, that's a jolly read.
God, you're a boring bastard.
I'm a boring bugger, yeah.
Okay, picture the scene. It's Camelot. It's Christmas. We got woodland sprites and Queen Guinevere toasting Yule nuts or some such. You got Merlin snogging one of the sacred oaks under the mistletoe. I don't really know what they got up to. The point is, it kind of has an office party at Christmas sort of vibe to it, right? I think, but with more jousting.
Yeah. Fewer photocopies, more jousting.
The only problem is Arthur's being kind of weird. He's up at the high table and he's refusing to eat until something cool happens. What is that something cool? I don't know. He's like, somebody challenge somebody tell a story, I'm so bored. Yeah. And I'm gonna, it's like somebody's boss giving them a weird test, or it's like almost like a frat party hazing ritual. Like, yeah. I'm not gonna eat until something dope happens.
Classic hunger strike.
So, wish granted, I guess, because all of a sudden some jolly green giant looking motherfucker bursts into the room like the Kool-Aid Man. He's huge. He's hot.
Two product placements there. Let me just...
yes, this episode brought to you by...
Peas and horrible American red drink.
Yeah, red drink. But so, this guy bursts in. He is enormous. He's on a horse. He's good looking. And he and the horse are completely green. I'm talking their skin, their hair, their clothes, everything, right? So, in one hand, he holds, quote, the mother of all axes, a cruel piece of kit, I kid you not. So, I guess we're just straight into this story then, to hell with the preamble. I mean, we are in it, right? And the giant is just like, Merry Christmas, dummies. Who's your leader? And everyone, including me, is stunned silent. And Arthur's like, me? Can I offer you some venison, or... And the giant's like, listen, Blondie, I'm not here to mess about. I mean you no harm, despite me violently bursting into your party, brandishing an axe. So here's the deal. I hear that you and your men are really chivalrous and will grant people anything they ask. So we're getting, Don Corleone on his daughter's wedding vibes, right? So I'm asking... let's play a game. And my first response is,
so it's no. Saw meets The
Godfather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
What I just like is that you can get anything you want from people by just being like, I hear you have this reputation for being so generous. Side note, can I have your wallet? Let that be a lesson to you. It really works every time, as this story tells us.
Or at least it did in the Middle Ages. Back then people were like, honor second to none, wasn't it? You know.
Daniel, you're such a hard worker. Do you want to do all my marking for me? I mean, God, just your reputation, really.
Yeah. All right then. Yeah. Carry on.
So, okay, here's the game that this guy proposes, and it makes total sense, I swear. So he says, he starts insulting them out of nowhere. He says, if one of your prissy little baby knights is man enough to strike me, by which he means, like, strike me with a sword or an axe, right? Like, properly cut him, and then is willing to be struck in return by me, I will give you my big axe, which is in no way a penis metaphor. It's not a penis metaphor, Daniel. Stop looking at me as though it were.
I was just thinking about terrines of applesauce. So he's going to whack a terrine of applesauce over this guy's head, as is traditional at Literary Christmas.
That is a callback to our Wuthering Heights episode. You can hear Daniel get upset about a terrine of applesauce. So the giant says, whoever's brave enough to do it, you can strike me first. I won't even flinch. But a year and a day from now, you have to come find me. I'm not going to tell you where I am, but you have to come hunt me down, and you have to let me return the blow to you, right? And in fairness, Arthur says, quote, your request is quite insane, which is fair play to you, Arthur. So Sir Gawain, who is Arthur's nephew and his least dope knight, is like, Arthur, my liege, as your least dope knight, I am the weakest, I am the dumbest, and the loss of my life isn't going to mean that much to the round table. Like, it's not going to affect your, it's not going to mess up your stuff anyway. And since this jerk has insulted us, let me challenge him, and if he kills me, well, fine. And I'm like, or you guys could just not take the bait. I get that there's this whole code of, honor and whatever. You could just throw his ass out into the cold Welsh winter and be like, bye, we did not invite you here.
Welsh winter.
Didn't you say it was Welsh in your last clue?
Well, it's kind of Welsh.
Isn't Camelot supposed to be in Wales?
No, it's Cornwall.
Well, I googled this. Oh, I'm sorry, because Daniel's a Cornwallian. A Cornwallian? Cornwallis.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
And, no, I looked it up, and I thought they said Camelot was in Wales. Ooh, are you bristling? Are you physically bristling right now?
It's just another example of Welsh imperialism over the Cornish people.
Okay. I thought, weren't you a Midlandser?
Yeah.
A Midlands.
I've got a number of mixed allegiances.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to keep them all straight.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, cool. Okay, so here's the thing, though. Sir Gawain has got a plan, and he plans to... He's not going to mess about. He's going to just completely behead this knight, so he won't have to receive a return blow in a year and a day.
We've all been there, haven't we? That is the quickest way to resolve any problem, to decapitate the challenger.
I would love to have you watching my back in a bar brawl.
Yeah.
Just, you go right for the jugular,
exactly.
literally.
Yeah.
So Gawain takes the proffered axe, and he chops the Green Knight's head clean off, and it's really gross. It's quite visceral. There's blood everywhere. The party vibes are completely off by this point. Ooh, that's a point. Is it green?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
Get the line.
Let's say yes.
Blood gutters brightly against his green gown. The against makes me think it's red.
Oh, I'd be tentatively willing to accept that. Regardless, this stops the party stone dead, as it would if all of a sudden there's been a decapitation in the middle of it. Sir Bors and Lady Elaine are no longer on that photocopier. And then, Daniel, the Green Knight gets up and he picks up his head like he's just dropped his keys. He jumps back on his horse and screams, away, Bucephalus. I've named the horse Bucephalus. I hope you don't mind. That is not...
Alexander's horse.
Exactly.
A bit of horse nerdery.
I was hoping you wouldn't know that. It's embarrassing me just how nerdy that is. And he's like, see you next year, sucker. And everyone, again, is just sort of frozen in place. And Arthur is there like, this is fine. Everything's fine.
This is the best Christmas ever.
And that is the end of part 1.
Fit the first.
Fit the first.
Yeah, what is a fit? So it's divided into fits. I don't know what a fit is. Probably should have looked that up.
FITT.
The premise has been established.
My God, hasn't it been established?
Yeah. So, meanwhile, just like everything goes back to normal, doesn't it? The year carries on.
This is what, not to interrupt you immediately, but I just thought, if he's like, you have to seek me out or your honor will be forfeit, why do you wait the full year? I would start locating him immediately.
I think it was a slower pace of life back then. It wasn't like some kind of, you Americans trying to do everything immediately.
But what happens if you run out of time? He doesn't know where he is. He could be up in the Orkneys with, the Frankenstein's monster and Clerval's body.
It's a little callback to Frankenstein. Also, isn't there a degree to which Gawain is kind of dithering? And
Okay, all right.
Well, anyway, so a year goes by. There's a bit of a kind of epic catalogue, isn't there, listing all the knights?
Oh, this is absolutely fan service in this sort of, Marvel movie offshoot. It's a bit like, and Sir
Bors was there.
Sir Bors was, it was Sir Bors. Who else was it?
They're all there. Galahad,
Sir Tristan, Sir
Lancelot.
Yeah. They just do a little lineup of like, and the whole crew was there to say goodbye.
Gawain is just kind of blithe about it all.
Bit Pollyanna-ish.
Yes.
Would you go so far as to say he's a himbo?
So they're all like kitting him out, aren't they? There's a lot of kind of, I love all this stuff talking about all of his robes and baldricks and things like that. I don't know.
Yeah, they spend forever talking about how they dress him. Just this Ren Fair looking motherfucker. That is my worst nightmare. The idea of somebody dressing me. I hate that.
When you're a knight, though, you kind of need it, don't you? Because you need all your cuirass administering and things, don't you? So.
I guess. I really hate being fussed over, and the idea of people sort of like, I don't know, just fitting things and tightening things. It would drive me insane.
And then they all kind of, they escort him and kiss him and commend him to Christ, the line is, isn't it? And they,
is that what you call it? Yeah.
They're all sending him off. I like this bit about the pentagram shield. It just goes on for a long time. Why he has the star on his shield is because he was deemed flawless in his 5 senses. Secondly, his 5 fingers were never at fault. Thirdly, his faith was founded in the 5 wounds Christ received. Fourthly, his fortitude is rooted in Mary's 5 joys. And fifthly, he included friendship and fraternity with fellow men, purity and politeness that impressed at all times, and pity, which surpassed all pointedness. So he's got 5 big fives. There's a lot of 5 going on. But like, the poem's alliterative, isn't it? But we've also got this sort of like funny conceptual alliteration, which I quite like.
Oh, yeah. And I was just wondering, did you find this section particularly Catholic? Because I was just thinking about the sort of the stuff and how that makes you more godly and just their obsession with things and kit. It had a very like, get that sweet, sweet loot. Get it for the Lord sort of vibe to it. It felt very pre-Protestant Reformation.
Yes. There's a lot of bling, as they used to say. They don't really say that anymore, do they?
The medieval people.
Yeah.
Medieval Midlandsersmans.
Yeah, exactly. Midlandians. So that's the end of his like prep. He goes out a-questing. He kind of hangs around Wales for a bit, doesn't he? He kind of goes up through Wales. That's what made me think it was in Cornwall, because he goes up through Wales.
I'm so sorry. Well, in fairness, it says he goes to North Wales.
No. He says he goes through Wales, then hangs around North Wales a bit.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There's a bit of Holyhead, isn't there? They say on the left was Holyhead.
I have touched a nerve with you.
No, it's fine. If you want to you deny my culture hero, that's fine. So he goes to North Wales, kind of hangs around there a bit. All mad stuff happening there, and they're like, I don't know.
Well, they talk about how he goes on all these adventures. Like, he fights serpents and snarling wolves, but this section has been cut for time because we had to spend 8 goddamn pages on his tabard.
That's one of the things I really like about kind of medieval poems and like epic stuff, is that they always seem to like not focus on the thing that
your
a contemporary.
Priorities are wrong.
Exactly, I love that about that. But their priorities are it's all about kitting people out. By the way, he also fought a bunch of creatures. He goes to the Wirral, which I quite liked. The Wirral is apparently full of barbarous people, which is the kind of peninsula next to Liverpool. Because these days, if you meet people from the Wirral, they're all like, I thought I'm from Liverpool, but I don't sound it because I'm really from the Wirral. So it's this kind of suburban bit now. It's very posh. So it's funny that it used to be a sort of barbarous place, apparently. Then he enters a kind of strange region, doesn't he? I don't know what. So he's gone through Wales, crossed to the Wirral, then the strange region. I don't know if that's like Lancashire or something. Doesn't matter. There reaches a point where he realises he's been kind of jollying around too much, fighting creatures and wild men, and realises he needs to go and find the Green Knight pronto. So he kind of speaks to the Virgin Mary, as they did back then. There's a bit of a Catholic bit for you. And then finds a kind of weird castle in the wilderness in this strange region that he's wandering across. And is greeted by the master of the castle very, very warmly, innit? Firmly, like good friends, they hugged and held a little while.
Yeah, gee, what am I going to say here, Daniel?
It's nice to be greeted nicely, I suppose.
Like brothers? Wink.
Yeah.
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 It's a queer reading. I missed it so much in our last episode. The last episode was so bananas, but...
The staunchly heterosexual Wuthering Heights.
God, it was so hetero. Yeah, the dude is muscly and hot and redheaded, and Gawain isn't not interested. Is the moral of that bit.
Well, you're gonna like what happens next, I think. Everybody kind of... Gawain is welcomed into the castle. Everyone is thrilled by him. I think he's a bit of a little kind of dweeb, isn't he?
Yeah, they all come around and marvel at the wee virgin.
Prod him and poke him.
Yeah.
Proke, if you want to save time. Then there's the lady of the house. She's sort of very glamorous, isn't she?
He thinks she's hotter than Guinevere, but in fairness, Guinevere is his much older aunt. By this point, Gawain's aunt. So he does a little assessment of all of her ladies in waiting, doesn't he?
Yeah, we have this funny summary, don't we? Whereas the lady of the castle is very glamorous, her sort of bondmaid is very not so. And we have this funny bit about her trunk was square and squat, her buttocks bulged and swelled, and most men would sooner squint at her whose hand she held. So it's a bit mean, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a little shitty. You don't need to go on about a lady's big butt. Some ladies would pay a lot of money to have a big butt. Some ladies do pay a lot of money.
They have a big feast. It's Christmas morning. They're all like opening their presents in their pajamas, aren't they? Gawain's I don't know if anyone's been present at somebody else's Christmas morning, but...
I have. It's
yes,
weird.
Yeah, so Gawain's in that sort of position, isn't he? He's a bit sort of...
I'm so happy that you got what you wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're all like, they do the special song and Gawain doesn't know it and,
Do you think they had those weird little crowns that your lot have? The little paper crowns?
Oh, from...
Like the Christmas...
The crackers?
Yeah!
Do you not have that?
Not in America, no.
Because
I feel like
you don't have little kind of George Washington wigs that you put on because you're a republic.
We have little tricorns.
Well, that comes later, doesn't it? That comes on Christmas, with Christmas dinner. You don't have that in the morning. Well, maybe some people do open crackers in the morning. I don't know. I don't want to be present at some weird up Christmas where people open crackers in the morning. So...
We're going to get so much hate mail from this.
I just... there's a time to open crackers and there's a time not to, and it's not in the morning. So, they have a big Christmas... Gawain and the lady of the castle have a sort of frisson, but he's
What does that mean?
There's a sort of chemistry between the two of them, but...
Frisian! Say it like a human.
Is frisson? Frisian. The lord of the castle is like, so Gawain, what brings you here? After he's opened all of his scaletrics and whatever,
all of his socks. Oh, another pair of socks.
Well, hose they called it back then, but yeah, point well made. All like Bugs Bunny on it. And disappointing.
Oh man, if your parents are listening to this, they're going to be like, Daddy didn't like the gift.
Yeah. Well, you can't even wear those socks in any kind of normal context, can you, if they've got like joke shit on them?
No.
So Gawain explains his quest, the Green Chapel and everything, and the Lord's like, oh yeah, I know where that is, where the knight lives. Just you relax. You have a good Christmas. We'll be playing party games and things. And so we'll do all that, and then I'll take you to the Green Knight's abode. They have this sort of moment of a kind of oath to each other. Gawain's sort of like temporarily the Lord's knight. It's kind of a sort of a temping type thing, isn't it? And the Lord's like, here's the deal, Sonny. I'm going to be out hunting every day. You're going to have to stay here. Hoovering.
You can't come. Yeah, he's like, whatever I find in the woods, I'll come back and give to you. Like, let's play a weird little game. You get whatever I find in the woods. Whatever you find in the castle, you have to give to me. And I'm just sitting here going, but wait, isn't everything in the castle already yours?
Yeah.
So I just Gawain, I have some questions. Ask some questions, my friend.
It was before absolute title existed in terms of property, though, wasn't it? So maybe Gawain could get stuff.
I guess, but just can you please stop making creepy pacts with people? Fool me once, my guy.
Yes, that's
stop.
True. Yeah. It was a very pacty age, wasn't it? I think people were always kind of like,
I guess.
You go out, get some milk or whatever, and you come back and you're like, oh, I've just already been roped into 6 different pacts. I think that was the sort of situation. That's why we had to put an end to it with modernity.
That's why we had to. It was just weird psychosexual games. Nobody was getting anything done.
Like Columbus and Martin Luther and all the rest all got together and we're just like...
we can't be having with this.
Knackered from all these pacts.
This is the part of the poem that they never taught me in my undergrad. And boy, I wish I had, because I would have paid a lot more attention in class. Okay, So really, really buckle in, Daniel, because I'm gonna get into it. This is the best thing I've ever read. I'm so happy right now. Okay. The Lord and his entourage, the next day, they go hunting, they nab a deer. There's all these scenes of hunting. I don't really want to get into that.
They're quite good bits, someday.
They're very good. They're very interesting, but that is not why I am here, friend. So, they're hunting. Gawain is still snug in his bed, and he hears his bedroom door open. It's very early in the morning. He peeks his eye open and sees the lady of the house sneaking into his room like a thief in the night. She sneaks up on him like a Prius, and he's like, this is awkward. I don't know why she's here. I'm just gonna pretend that I'm still asleep and let her do whatever she needs doing, and, if she has to grab something, and then she'll go away. Except she doesn't go away. She sits on his bed and watches him sleep for a very long time.
Has a cigarette, doesn't she?
So he's like, okay, this is pretty awkward. I don't know how long I can do this. So he goes, oh, I'm awake now. Oh, my lady, what are you doing here, right? And she's like, I just wanted to chat. All the servants are asleep. I'm just here for chatting. And he's like, I could really chat a lot better if I had some pants on. And she's like, oh, Gawain, you're a scream. Yeah. And she sits on the bed with him and forces him to, make polite chit-chat with her until noon. I would be furious, because I'm an up and instant breakfast sort of person. I would be livid at this point.
Didn't really have breakfast back then, did Dave? You just all had pottage in the middle of the day.
Yeah, are you willing to stake a claim on that, because you're such a good medieval scholar?
Well, I mean, I have completed Medieval Total War a couple of times, so...
So have I, hundreds of times, so I'm pretty much...
Well, yeah, but probably it's one of the easy countries. I was Aragon.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. I bow to your expertise. My best friend's a medieval scholar. I'm going to ask her about this. I'm going to make a note.
She's had pottage. Yeah.
Yeah.
She'll be like, yep. Verily, as they said back then.
Yes, she'll say verily, Daniel's a genius. Yeah. He really knows his stuff.
Genius, they did hard G's back then.
So she finally leaves the bedroom, and before she goes, she pulls a Column and she goes, just one more thing. She's like, are you...
Peter Falk. Sorry, that's already going to be my guy playing the lady now. Carry on.
I would love to see Peter Falk in this role. So she says, are you sure that you are Sir Gawain? And he's like... Yeah, why? And she says, well, Sir Gawain has the reputation for being King Arthur's most chivalrous knight, and you've just done something that's very unchivalrous. And he's like, oh my god, I'm so sorry, what is it? And she says, well, we've been chatting for several hours, and you're letting me leave without asking for a goodbye kiss, as, politeness and chivalry dictate. And Gawain's sitting there, and you can feel the cogs spinning in his head, and he's like, I feel like there's some sort of flaw to your logic, but I really can't bear having my reputation as a chivalric person tarnished, so okay. Daniel, please feel free to stop me when things start sounding really weird at any point. So they kiss, and then she leaves, and he, I love this bit, he sort of bounds out of bed feeling really lively and happy. And I'm just thinking, oh, Gawain, baby, my sweet baby. It's just an erection. It's okay. You don't know how to process it yet, but he's real, just eager to greet the day and in a very good mood. So that night, the Lord of the Castle comes home. He brings home the deer that he killed from his hunt, and he's like, hey, Gawain, this is what I found in the woods.
Let me just stop you there. It's very filmic, isn't it? Because we have these cuts back and forth.
Yeah.
He's out there hunting. There's all intestines flying around and stuff. Then we have the cut back to the lady kind of inching closer,
hunting, doing her own hunt. Yes.
Yeah, but you really feel like it's cutting back and forth. I like that.
I think this is why this is so easy to read, at least this edition of it, because it's very cinematic. I mean, you feel like you're there. It's very easy to picture. So he says, okay, here's what I found in the woods. What did you find in the castle? Because you have to give it to me by our agreement. And Gawain's like, I've found a kiss a little bit. So he and the Lord just have a little bit of a snog. And the Lord's like, wow. That was great.
He just plants one on him, doesn't he? It's kind of really spontaneous. Yeah.
And the Lord's like, do you want to tell me where you won the kiss? And Gawain's like, no. And then he and the Lord just laugh and drink. And I'm not making any of this up. I really wish I were, but this is all sort of word for word. So while they're feasting and drinking after, a little make-out sesh, they then decide to play the game again the next day. And so the Lord goes out The next morning, Gawain stays at home. The lady breaks into Gawain's bedroom again, even though she talks about how the door can actually be bolted from the inside, and I don't know why Gawain didn't do this unless he wanted her to break in. Gawain, you dog. So they talk again for a long time, curled up in his bed, and she says again, I can't believe you're being so unchivalrous. This morning you haven't even kissed me once. And I'm like, can you please let the man brush his teeth?
There was a lot of kissing in chivalry, wasn't there? It was all about kissing people on the battlefield and, you know...
It was a better age.
Yeah,
I'm just going to say it. I told you in the first episode, this is how I read. I just want characters to just smush their faces against each other, and my God, does this text deliver. So she's like, kiss me again, and Gawain's still a little bit weirded out by the whole thing. He's like, I don't know if this is the right thing to be doing. And the lady is like, listen, Gawain, we are bound by sex law now. I'm sorry, I don't make the rules, I just work here. So he's like, well, okay. So they kiss again, knowing full well, given how yesterday had gone, that he's going to have to kiss the Lord when he comes home from hunting. And there is just no heterosexual explanation for this. I'm sorry. I'm sure medieval scholars will be like, I think you'll find that kissing was a sort of normal... I don't care. Let it be gay for a little bit. I don't know if this was actually a good place to talk about the idea of chivalric romance, because the conversation that Gawain and the lady have, it's incredibly flirtatious. It's so erotically charged, but then it always pulls itself back at the very last minute from being totally inappropriate by talking about, like, Christ and honor and all of these things. And I think that's, I really like that about chivalric romance, because it's never sort of wholly platonic and it's never wholly sexual. It's sort of really, it has a foot in either camp. It's a very weird thing to read, and from a modern vantage. I love it. The lady sort of escalates things on this second morning, and she says, okay, we've kissed. Let's boink. It's chivalric, probably. You kind of have to. And Gawain is really sort of at cross purposes here. He's like, listen, I mean, have I thought about having sex with you? Yeah. Am I consumed by it? Also, yeah. But doesn't that mean that I'm going to have to boink your husband later tonight? Because I gotta be honest, that might be my limit. This is all subtextual. I'm sort of editorializing a little bit.
I'm not Superman. Sorry.
Yeah, that's the thing stopping him. He's like 17. He'll rally.
Okay.
She tries to seduce him, but it's all really lighthearted. And this is such a weird... It's tonally so weird to me. It's sort of like if Wes Anderson directed 50 Shades of Grey, where it's just like the scene does not quite match up with what's happening. So like she's trying really, really hard to seduce him, but it's so light and whimsical and honor-filled and whatever that Gawain is actually able to politely refuse her, and she finally leaves. So the Lord comes back to the castle with the boar that he hunted. He gives it to Gawain. Gawain, as per usual, gives the Lord a kiss in return without saying where he got it from, and they decide to do the competition for one more day. Why, Gawain? Why?
There are other games.
There are other games. Yeah. Othello, Ludo, you referenced in previous episodes.
I like Consequences. I think that's a good kind of Christmas game. Right.
What is that in American?
I don't know. Where everyone writes down a name at the top and then folds it over and passes it on, and you kind of create a story collectively. You ever played that?
Mm-mm.
Oh, it's great fun.
So
the Christmas evenings roll by.
Is that just because you're drunk?
I think it helps.
It helps, yeah. So the next day, as per usual, I mean, this is just lather, rinse, repeat at this point. The Lord goes fox hunting, and the lady, as is her wont, she breasts boobily into Gawain's chamber, dressed in her most revealing outfit, and they make a real fucking meal out of this. Like, she's very, I don't want to say inappropriately dressed, but, you know, she's certainly putting the girls out there. And she's like, what, this old thing? And so they talk the whole morning, they kiss again, and she's like, look, we really, at this point, need to have sex. And Gawain's like, listen, I would, but I took one of those purity pledges. Look, I have my ring and everything, my promise ring. But he does say, like, tomorrow I have to go face the Green Knight. I might die. That's kind of a mood killer. I think I would be in the opposite camp. I think it's a now or never sort of deal. But, you know, whatever. We all have our different reactions to grief. So she says, that's right, I forgot that you have to go, you know, maybe meet your death tomorrow. Take my girdle. It's magic. It's
the old trick.
Let me just it's magic, it's green, it will protect you from any harm. The one catch is if I give you my girdle,
hole in your gut. Yeah.
you can't tell my husband about it. So just to recap, just so we're all on the same page, this woman sneaks into his room repeatedly every morning without anyone knowing about it, locking the door behind them, wearing basically like booby tassels by the end, rolling around in his bed, kissing him. But him hanging onto her belt, well, that is just the giddy limit, right? Like, just so we're all on the same page. Because she's like, oh, well, if my husband sees you with this intimate article of my clothing, he'll figure it out.
Isn't the issue that if she gives him the girdle, by the rules of the game, he needs to forward on the girdle to the Lord, and that's
defeats
why
the purpose.
So that's why it's transgressive.
But she also says something about, like, it's an intimate article of my clothing, and he'll twig that something might be up.
Yeah.
So it's a dual, yes, you're right, but it's also the whole, like, well, he can't possibly see you holding my belt. So Gawain mulls this over, and he decides that whatever weird psychosexual game he's got going on with the Lord and Lady does not trump the protection he's going to get from having his head cut off. So he's just like, yeah, I'll take this girdle. I'll take it. I will say nothing. Good day, madam. And the Lord of the Castle comes back that night with a fox from his hunting, which he gives to Gawain. And Gawain, sort of reneges on his promise to the Lord and keeps his promise to the Lady. So he only gives the Lord the kisses that he receives that day, and he says nothing about the girdle.
So we have a re-kittening, where something to do with kittens.
I was going to say, but that's
no. Gawain gets kitted up again, this time to go off and meet the Green Knight.
And he remembers the girdle, importantly, hidden under his
clothes. He puts on his girdle, under his normal belt, and leaves.
It is spooky, isn't it? It's genuinely, it's eerie, it's weird, it's spooky. Like, the atmosphere is great in this.
It just captures the bleakness of England. I think there's a kind of a beauty to the bleakness of England. And the clouds, which had climbed, now cooled and dropped, so the moors and the mountains were muzzy with mist, and every hill wore a hat of mizzle on its head. The streams on the slopes seemed to fume and foam, whitening the wayside with spume and spray. That's
delightful.
Yeah, sounds good. Generally a sort of bleak landscape, but ultimately pretty nice, in a poetic way.
What's mizzle? I love that word, but I don't know what it means.
It's like
just drizzle?
Yeah, drizzle, sort of. One of the kind of... It's like a, like one of the kindred damp weathers that we have in this country. The kind of
mist and drizzle.
The bastard child of mist and drizzle. Yeah, and one of the Lord's servants leads him to the Green Chapel, which is where the Green Man supposedly lives. Because green people live in green houses, don't they?
That is true.
Yeah. And the guy who guides Gawain, bit of alliteration for you there, says like, "Oh, you better be worried about this boyo inside this place. He's like a real savage, and he just kind of attacks people and
like randos walking down the street. Anyone who comes near him.
And it's a really creepy landscape, isn't it? It's a kind of it's in a sort of ravine. The rocks outside the chapel are so sharp and pointy that no cloud in the sky could escape unscratched.
Oh, that's
funny,
great. This is so well written or well translated. I just like that the servant is like, I got 3 words for you, bucko. Closed casket funeral. Run. Grab your bug out bag and like go to France. Go away. I mean, but you think that, I think Gawain quite rightly is like, well, this guy, if he can pick up his severed head, he can find me wherever I am.
So he goes into the chapel and he approaches the chapel and he can hear the...
love this. I love this so much.
This kind of awful sound. A blood-chilling noise. What? It cannoned through the cliffs as if they might crack, like a scream of a scythe being ground on a stone. What? It whined and wailed like a water wheel. What? It rasped and rang, roar on the ear. My God, cried Gawain, that grinding is a greeting. My arrival is honoured with the honing of an axe. So,
oh God, it's
the Green
so
Knight
good.
is sharpening the old axe. So that's,
it's genuinely thrilling, though. I read that and I got a sort of hideous chill up my spine. It's great. It's great.
So, Green Knight, give him a little pat on the back and says, well done for keeping your promise, for turning up. Difficult time of year as well, New Year's, isn't it? So, hard to get a taxi, famously. So, Gawain takes off his helmet and says to the knight, like, you've had a go on me. I've had a go on you, now you have a go on me. He's all like preparing for death. The Green Knight takes a swing, but doesn't hit him.
Like on purpose.
Yeah, on purpose. And does that twice. And it's kind of a bit like It's a bit too for flinching, isn't it? You know, and Gawain, the knight describes him as namby-pamby for flinching at this near decapitation. Well, and I totally agree. I don't know about you.
What, you'd stand stock still and face it like a man?
Yeah. The knight does a third chop and just nicks Gawain's neck. Another little bit of alliteration for you there. And cacophony. And a bit of blood drops out. Red blood, I believe. And the magic of the girdle is what protected him there, right?
I think so. It's not really made clear if he was like, oh, I'm actually a really good axeman, I can stop it and just give you a little nick, or if it's the girdle that did. I don't know. It's not.
It doesn't really matter.
It doesn't really matter.
Then Gawain kind of steps back, gets his sword out or whatever, and there's like, right now for the fight. And the knight's like, oh, don't worry about it. It's all good now, buddy. We're even. And he gives Gawain his axe. So there's always these silly kind of legal fictions in it, aren't there, where they're like, well, I did technically try to decapitate you, so therefore the deal is done, and, you know.
Yeah.
In the case of Gawain versus Green Knight, it was found that a cut to the neck counted as a decapitation, so going forward, that's going to be the rule.
In the legal court of this psychosexual game, we find you, Gawain.
It turns out, suddenly, that the Green Knight is actually the lord of the castle, speaking of psychosexual game.
A fucking shocker.
And this guy loves weird games, clearly. Ruining people's Christmas with mind tricks. So the Lord is like, good on you, Sonny. Thanks for the kisses, by the way. We all knew what was going on.
I sent my wife. It's like a swingers club gone horribly wrong.
Horrible trick. But I did give you a little nick on the neck because of the girdle. Because you didn't, I knew all about the girdle.
Well, so this is the bit I don't understand, where if he had given him the girdle and then Gawain had gone in not protected, but having honored his promise, would he have decapitated him, or would he not have done the third swing?
I think he wouldn't have done the third, or he would have not nicked him.
It's just, I don't understand what would have happened. I'm so confused by, like, the morality and the lesson we're supposed to learn.
Well, there's a bit, isn't there, where they talk about that. They say, like, the person who repays will live to feel no fear, that, like, it's all about debts and deals, and if you go along with a deal completely, then you need not worry. And I think that's the point, that because he didn't do the girdle, he loses a little bit of his neck.
I guess.
But it doesn't make any sense, does it? Because all of these things are totally arbitrary, and Gawain didn't need to take any of them up, and he just did it out of politeness.
It made no sense whatsoever, and I don't care. I like the bit where Gawain rips the girdle off and, like, spikes it at the Green Knight's feet like it's an American football. He's just like, here!
So, Gawain's freaked out, throws the girdle to the ground. Green Knight, he's unfazed, isn't he? Gawain's irritated, but the Green Knight's just thoroughly amused by the whole enterprise, and says, have the girdle. I don't want it.
My favorite bit is where Gawain is like, he goes through this whole bit where he's really struggling to sort of figure out if he's guilty of something or not. He has a real sort of moral crisis, and you can see Gawain trying to, like, work it through in real time, and the knight is just there going,
don't worry about it, it's all just good fun. Well, it's all just sport.
He's like, you know what, Gawain, you are guilty. Guilty of being adorable. Come here, you son of a bitch. I can't stay mad at you. Take the girdle. We're the best of friends. And Gawain's just like, wait, no, there's a lesson here I'm sure I was supposed to learn, but I don't know what it is.
So Gawain goes back to the Camelot, tries to kind of clarify with them. I think he kind of has a few hearts-to-hearts with the other knights and says, like, have I done wrong or whatever, and they're just kind of like, don't worry about it. And they all just kind of, they all just chuckle and pat his back and, eat
this is the best bit, because
meat and things, and go on.
And it just, I love the ending of this so much, where Gawain comes back after this incredibly weird experience, and he's like, wait, so you guys, like, this whole thing happened, did I sin or not? Did I break an oath or not? And Arthur is just like, well, I think we've all learned a valuable lesson here today. And they laugh, and then they decide to all wear green sashes in honor of this event. The end. And Gawain's like, wait, what? And they're like, no, but really though, the end. And that's the end of the poem, and I love it so much.
Guy.
I just want to take this poem and just kiss it gently on the forehead. I love it so fucking much.
Guy gets groped while staying with somebody.
Kind of likes it, but maybe not.
Yeah, is worried about it, and then goes home and everyone just laughs it off. That seems to be the overall plot.
Please, everyone, please go read this poem. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. I love it. I am actually crying real tears. I love it so much. Okay.
Ladies seldom make passes at men with green sashes.
And men seldom make passes at women with fat asses. should we cast this?
Go ahead.
I've
already got Peter Falk for the lady. I'm
just
trying
a
to
little
think of...
little shoulder reveal
Yeah.
from Peter Falk. Okay, so my casting choice for this, I know there's a film that's just coming out, but we have not seen it, so I can't comment on it. I'm sure Dev Patel will be delightful in it. I want Donald Glover as Sir Gawain, specifically Donald Glover from Community, because he's got that real, like, jockey, but boyish, but incredibly innocent. I think he'd be hilarious. Like, if we played this slightly more as a comedy, I think he would be perfect in this. So I want Troy Barnes, is what I'm saying. For the lady, I want Angelina Jolie, who would just eat him alive. Mm. You need that. And then I thought for the Lord, the Green Knight, someone who's handsome, but with this sort of real burly, masculine menace. So I'm thinking a sort of Tom Hardy or a Javier Bardem sort of type.
Oh yeah, they're quite different to each other, aren't they?
I mean, they're both big lumbering sort of...
How are we going to get him green? He's going to paint him green. I was thinking, are there any actors that look slightly ill already? And then you could just kind of green them up a bit.
Interesting. But they have to be burly. That's really, I think, the thing.
Burly and nauseated. Can't think of anyone. Well, I'll have a think.
Please write in if you know of an actor who's both burly and greenish.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, CGI and even practical effects do a lot of heavy lifting nowadays. You know that, right?
I know, but there's something magical about an authentically
green man.
Yeah. Final question about casting.
Yeah.
You say you'd have the same actor play the Lord and the Green Knight.
Yeah.
Does that not ruin the twist? I think you need a separate actor.
Makeup?
Bigger in makeup.
Okay, alright, well, I said either Tom Hardy or Javier Bardem. They could do, like that, do you remember the Johnny Lee Miller and Humpty-Back Bandersnatch Frankenstein where they used to switch off?
Yeah.
Every night? In this role, they'll switch on and off every scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay. At some point, this was the bit where I was going to reserve a bit of space to talk about the film. I will put this in another episode, which I'm very disappointed about. I really want
Well, this is about books, and I'm not here to talk about moving images. So
you're not here to talk... Well, this is about narrative, and it's my podcast, so it's actually here to talk about whatever I want it to be.
Well, this is a Cuda podcast, and I say no.
Staging a coup already. I was waiting for this.
Yeah. What's the moral we're supposed to take away from this?
I think I have an answer for this. I think it is about the balance between civilization and nature.
Yeah.
It's... What was that? What's that noise supposed to mean?
It's kind of interesting. Go on.
Well, because there's so much that happens within nature versus within the castle.
Nurture. Yes. No. Sorry.
But also the fact that there's a green man full stop. If we're going with the sort of classic medieval understanding of the green man, he symbolizes nature and rebirth.
He's a sort of folk type, isn't he?
Yes. So if you guys don't know what the green man is, look it up. There's a huge folk history there that I do not have the space or expertise to get into. But
he's the kind of guy that looks a bit like a bush, isn't he?
He's had many different incarnations.
Some of which look a bit like a bush.
Sure. So the Green Man clearly is all about sort of nature. There are issues of rebirth here, the fact that it's happening at New Year. There's clearly something about sort of natural cycles. But then the tension between courtliness, but also sort of, I don't know, enjoying bodily urges to some extent. The fact that Gawain seems to be celebrated for not breaking his oath, but not also maybe behaving as fully honorably as he should. There seems to be sort of... It's about finding that balance, I think.
But she only got him in the name of chivalry, didn't she? She only got him to kiss her.
Yeah,
but I do know what you mean. There is this funny sort of squaring the circle.
He also clearly was not into it.
Yeah.
I mean, the knight was smooching him the first evening he was there.
I don't know anything about the Middle Ages apart from how to lead Aragon to victory over the whole of Europe and Asia. But...
and Asia?
Yeah.
Are you a genius?
Yeah, I think I might be.
A genius, as you said before?
Yeah, as they said back then. I don't think about the Middle Ages, but chivalry seems like a pretty f***ed up moral system, doesn't it? Isn't there a lot of like, in the name of the peaceful son of God, I'm going to stand on this bridge and batter as many people as I can until... there's a lot of... It doesn't make any sense, does it, to me?
Do you pronounce it... Here's my question for you. Gawain, Gowan, Gavin...
I say Gawain.
Gawain. I mean, I've heard different variations on this.
Well, some people are still called that.
Gavin, yes.
No, Gawain, some people are still called as well. Mainly Welsh people.
Never.
Yeah.
Apart from that one student we have, I've never met a Welsh person.
Okay. Well, there are others available, and some of them are called Gawain.
Are there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Arthur, it's pronounced. But I say Gawain. I don't know.
So you're not claiming Welsh heritage in addition to your Midlands or Ermine and Cornwellite?
Well,
there's
if
no
you can't
Welsh in
split the
there.
difference between Midlands and Cornwall, you've kind of got Wales, haven't you?
Sorry, am I being offensive?
No, it's fine.
Why is that single tear rolling down your cheek then?
I was just thinking about St. Piran and all of his sacrifices for the Cornish people. There's nothing to do with you. All those brave tin miners. And it's also got the bob and wheel.
If you guys look this up then, so we have these long passages that frankly read almost like a novel. You forget this is poetry for a lot of it. And then at the end, there's these little like 4 lines. Yeah. And that's the wheel?
Yeah. Then let the Lord decide. Oh, well, won't help me here. I might well lose my life, but freak sounds hold no fear. We've had, that's the wheel. I think it's kind of like, it kind of sums up the previous bit of action, doesn't it? It's like a little kind of rhyming couplet at the end almost.
And it's probably, it seems like a little segue as well of like, we're wrapping up this bit, let's move on to the next little scene or the next little moment of action or something. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah. I'd never heard that as a sort of term before. I wonder if that's a typical medieval device.
I think it was big at this time.
I honestly don't know. I have so little experience reading medieval.
Who's this even literature. For? I don't even get who this is for. Just the good people of Cheshire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I imagine just a little campfire story. Do you want to hear something?
Sitting in Bunbury.
You want to hear something a little sexy? You want to hear something a little violent? Go on.
Yeah. Somebody must have been like, "Oh, I want something a bit of sex in," and somebody else was like, "I want something a bit of violence in." Oh. I want a lot of animal intestines. Okay, I'll come up with something. I think that's how this developed. All
right. So here's a little bit of advice for people. So. This was a work of translation. Daniel actually picked this translation. I think it was an excellent selection because this guy did a really good job. It was so readable for me.
He's the poet laureate, isn't he? Simon Armitage. Everybody does them for their GCSE, or at least I did.
But I was thinking, if, say you're reading something in translation and there are, 50 different versions and you don't know which one to choose, how do you choose something? How do you know which one is the right one for you? And my answer, which is not going to be that helpful, is just Google it, because most of us do not speak more than one language well enough to be able to delve into the nuances of translation. But there are plenty of people out there that have very strong opinions and do have that expertise. So just Google it, 5 minutes, you will very quickly be able to discover some sort of consensus about which versions are best for what reasons. This one does X great, this one does Y great, and pick one of the top ones that seem to generally be considered okay.
There are other search engines, aren't there, as well? Let me just say. None specifically oriented toward translation, though.
Daniel's saying, can you please Bing which one is the best?
Yeah,
can you please Yahoo?
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
I'm sorry, am I giving too much? This podcast sponsored by Google?
No.
Google.
You can't say that, yeah.
It's clearly a joke.
No, but they'll break my kneecaps.
They break yours, not mine.
Yeah, that's how they do it. Sick bastards.
Why, under the assumption that I'd give a shit if you...
Yeah, exactly.
They're like, good, get him! Get the other one! Yeah. So our clue to the next episode is that it's got a lot of car crashes in it. Yeah, please write into our email or tweet us. Our email is savemefrommyself@gmail.com. Our Twitter account is smfms_.
SMSFM.
Save me from myself. Just take the first letters. You can figure it out. You're a smart person. _podcast.
Don't assume that, please.
I will assume.
Okay, cool.
And then I guess just our question for today is, have you ever read 2 translations of the same text that were wildly different? Because I have read 2 translations of Beowulf, and one was very good and very readable, and one was very bad and very boring.
Which was your favourite?
Which one do you think? Oh, I asked the readers to be smart. I guess I didn't need my co-host to be smart.
God, no. Who were they by?
I don't remember who the good one was by because I was in high school.
Right.
The bad one was the Tolkien Beowulf. And
God, yeah. He did a Gawain in the Green Knight too,
didn't he? I tried so hard, and maybe it's just my reading style. I like Lord of the Rings, but I just could not get through his translation of Beowulf. Right. Thank you guys for listening to Save Me From My Shelf. Bye!
Thanks for listening to Save Me From My Shelf. Our music is
The Overture to Don Giovanni by Mozart, and cover art is by Catherine Wu. Our thanks to Aston University's Centre for Critical Inquiry into Society and Culture for funding the startup of this podcast. Contact us at savemefrommyshelf@gmail.com or at smfms_podcast on Twitter. And do not, I'm going to remind you, do not forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Do not forget. Thank you.